Alright, hello, greetings, and welcome everyone to this news video. I am the Ninjaneer, and the topics we are covering today are as follows. Aptera selects the supplier Tianma for their center console. Aptera engagement, a CES piece of content. Rivian is doing self-driving. Burkina Faso's electric revolution. Mitsubishi might not make the partnership. And things that I liked. Let's get started. Alright, so Aptera has selected Tianma Display to supply their launch edition screens. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on here in these decisions, and this decision, at least from what I can tell, is a pretty good one. I'll go ahead and go into a little bit of detail about what the company is, etc. But first, we're going to talk about the press release. Aptera selected Tianma's 12.8-inch full HD ultra-wide viewing angle ASI TFT LCD module with a normal black SFT and a wide color gamut technology. The module features a wide operation temperature range from -30 to 80 degrees Celsius or -22 to 176 degrees Fahrenheit with 980 nits luminance and a 1400 to 1 contrast ratio. The capacitive touch panel CTP surface features anti-glare and anti-fingerprint treatment. Now, as I read through these specs, one thing came to me that feels pretty ubiquitous or pretty samey when it comes to every other electric vehicle screen out there. The brightness is not terribly impressive, and it, generally speaking, never is. I don't know why that's the case, but it's rare for me to see any car screen over 1,000 nits. It could be because the efficiency of the screen or the panel is poor enough that they can't increase the brightness without significantly increasing the power draw. It could be because the screens themselves are not built to be able to handle much more brightness than the 980 nits, etc. But this is an EV industry wide situation. I haven't really seen too many really bright, really proficient screens in EVs. Now, mind you, I've only actually driven 3 or 4 EVs in my life, and I've only ridden in a couple more, so maybe I'm missing something that I'm missing something. But as I have seen so far, the specifications for most screens, in vehicles at least, are fairly dim. Now, the temperature ranges and the contrast ratio and all that kind of stuff are pretty good. Yeah, I don't see much of an issue with these. These will be perfectly sufficient for the car. I assume that because you're always going to have a roof over your head when it comes to vehicles, they don't necessarily prioritize the brightness so much. But yeah, speculation there, but here are the specs for the screen in case you wanted to see them. Now, more importantly, who is Tianma? Tianma is a screen company that I am probably mispronouncing that does automotive screens, industrial screens, medical screens. They ruggedize screens for charging applications. They do IT screens for like laptops and things like that, and then they do personal consumer electronics screens such as tablets and things of that nature. I am not going to pretend that I know Tianma because I have not heard of their screens being used in anything, but they are not a small supplier. They're probably just one that doesn't necessarily put their name on things and you don't actually see the brand. They're not customer facing, I guess you could say. Now, I'm going to go into this CleanTechnica article because it was interesting how they decided to frame the actual premise of the article. And I wanted to talk a little bit about slants, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this. Please humor me for just a moment as we get into this. It says, CleanTechnica has been following Aptera's long on-again, off-again solar car journey step by step. The latest step is a significant one, providing another indication that the automaker is on track for production. This is what happens when the company that is covering something, the news station that is covering something, is trying to be fair when it comes to how they cover something. This is kind of where I am trying to stay when it comes to Aptera coverage in general. I know I am an optimist. I know I am usually more positive than most. And I also know that sometimes people take that slant as me being unnecessarily positively biased. It's okay, I understand. I am a positive person. It's just who I am. I am also a realist, but ironically, I think that my realist nature lends itself to my positivity. I am more positive because I am a realist. I don't know. Maybe that's just my interpretation. Anyway, I like how CleanTechnica covered this particular news and how they wrote their article, so I just wanted to highlight, good job, guys, and talk about slants. My slant is more positive, theirs is more neutral, or balanced, I guess you could say, and then of course you all already know that there are some fairly negative articles written about Aptera that have come up even fairly recently, even after CES, which I don't get, but it happens. Aptera did themselves a little CES Sizzle Reel here. It is a really fun look at how they perceived Aptera throughout the CES show and how Aptera views CES kind of. It was a fun video. It was a short video, but it was a fun video, and I suggest you guys check it out if you haven't already. Rivian plans to roll out hands-free driving this year and an eyes-free system in 2026. This was very interesting for several reasons, but Rivian dipping their toe in the water of self-driving vehicles has always kind of been something that people think about or thought about or wanted to happen. It's just interesting to hear that they're actually following through with something, and we're going to talk a little bit about that follow-through at this point. According to the folks at Rivian Forums, Scaringe said during the event that the company plans to launch a hands-free ADAS feature in 2025. Next year, Rivian will follow it up with an eyes-free system. So essentially, this came from a forum based on an interview or a conversation with this gentleman named Scaringe, whose name I might be pronouncing correctly. I'm not entirely sure. The question is, will this system have the R1T owners gaining access, or would it depend on whether or not you have a Gen 1 or a Gen 2? So Rivian recently updated their vehicle with a lot of new features and different driving system upgrades and things like that, more cameras and things like that. A lot of people have been wondering whether or not that upgrade is required for this self-driving system to work. As far as I understand it, nobody really knows that whether or not that Gen 1 will be able to handle the workload or the necessary systems that would allow it to self-drive. I'm expecting that they'll give us an update on this sometime soon, but as of this time I could not find anything that specified whether or not a Gen 1 vehicle will work with this new system. Probably because they don't know yet, but we'll find out, I'm assuming sometime very soon. Alright, this is kind of a mid-video break situation. I was told that it's better to put your requests for things in the middle of your videos instead of at the end, just in case people don't make it, so please do the YouTube things. Back to the video. Alright, so this is one of the many stories that you guys have submitted to me to talk about on my news video updates, and I am covering it because it is actually fascinating when you dig into the nitty-gritty of it. So there's a country called Burkina Faso. It is an African country in West Africa. It is like nestled in between a bunch of the more, I guess, popular countries or more talked about countries in the western portion of Africa. So yeah, anyway, they have an electric car, they have a car company by the name of, I'm going to say it's Telo, and they unveiled their first locally produced electric car. They sourced all the materials from their country or countries in Africa, depending on the situation, and it is their first electric vehicle. Electric vehicles made by Itoa, a Burkinabe company. Burkina Faso is making headlines once more for all the good reasons. I found this writing funny, but it was also translated, so, kind of give him a little bit of grace on the wording and language here. In a first of its kind achievement, Itawa, which is a Burkina car maker, unveiled the nation's first electric car, a product 100% made locally. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was under the impression that they outsourced some of the parts from different parts of Africa, so an African-made car total. But this is saying that the product is actually made 100% in the country. So Burkina Faso is making their own electric vehicle in the country, within the country, and that's actually really awesome. This record-breaking feat not only highlights the nation's growing industrial and technological capabilities, obviously, holy crap, that's amazing, but also represents an exciting possibility for its citizens. With a charging time of 30 minutes and covering a distance of 330 kilometers, the car will revolutionize transport in the country. Burkina Faso is truly a nation that continues to give us good news. Now, I looked into some of the socioeconomic things happening in the country, and they are a rapidly developing technological powerhouse. I wouldn't say that they are amazing or over the top from a perspective of like bare brute force, but they are able to utilize the systems that they have available to a degree that makes most other places that I've looked into, like developing nations that are doing this kind of thing, like they're leagues above, is what I'm trying to say. They are great at optimization and things of that nature. I don't know how that's going to translate to their cars, but if it translates to their cars like it does to their electrical grid and things like that, it's going to be pretty awesome. Now, please note here that Burkina Faso is a place that has a very small number of people, like only 20% of the population actually has electricity, but the fact that they are starting electric cars now in the situation where they only have 20% of people that have access to electricity at this moment, and they are quickly remedying that, by the way, with more electrical grid coverage countrywide. But the fact that they're starting this with a 20% access to electrical grids is, I guess, a scathing rebuke is how I interpreted it of the American laissez-faire, or not laissez-faire, laissez-faire attitude towards moving towards electric vehicles. We are either fairly neutral to, except for in the case of Biden's push towards electric vehicles with the IRA, but yeah, we are either fairly lackadaisically moving towards or actively resisting what most people are considering the future, which is wild to me. Burkina Faso is like leaning into it, and it's crazy because, like I said, 20% of them have electricity. That's a far cry from America's like 90-ish%. So they realize, even with their limitations on their electrical grid, that it is time to move forward towards electric vehicles. So I feel like that's, a little janky for, the US to be this far removed from the process of transitioning. We are transitioning, it's just way slower than what it could be. I'm rambling right now, that's semantics, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, Burkina Faso is making a 100% electric vehicle, and it is fascinating. The most striking thing about about this vehicle is its efficiency. This piece of information leaves out a lot of context that I would like to see for this particular vehicle. They have not talked about what the actual battery size is in the vehicle so that we could actually rate the efficiency, but it cites efficiency as something that is striking about the vehicle. Going 330 kilometers with 30 minutes of electricity is something that is on par with the electric vehicles around the world, and I would say it's around mid-tier when it comes to actual energy to road efficiency, charging efficiency at least. But I don't know enough about this vehicle yet, and probably they don't know enough about this vehicle yet to know whether or not it is actually efficient to drive, like it is using energy efficiently. It is charging quickly, or charging fairly quickly for an electric vehicle, but we don't know how that efficiency translates to battery pack size and like actual watt hours per mile or watt hours per kilometer or what have you. So until we find out those numbers, I'm going to hold my reservation and judgment on this, besides saying that I think it's really cool that a developing nation is working on such a massive undertaking and is managing to do so within the borders of its own country. It's really crazy, really awesome, really neat. But I want more details so I can figure out whether or not I would say, oh, I want a Burkina Faso vehicle. I want a Tawa, whatever they're going to call this thing. I don't know what it's called yet, but yeah, I don't know enough about it, but it's really cool to see. Mitsubishi considers an exit from the Honda-Nissan merger. I'm going to just go ahead and read for you guys a little bit of this article, like the statements from Mitsubishi, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. And I'm going to ask that you guys put your thoughts in the comments if you guys happen to agree with my assessment later on. So the paragraph that kind of stuck out to me was this one here. Rather, the section that stood out to me looks like, this one here. The proposed merger between Honda and Nissan has been making waves in the automotive world, but not all of the deal's potential stakeholders are on board. Mitsubishi Motors, a junior partner of Nissan, is reportedly considering stepping away from the deal. Sources close to the matter told Reuters that Mitsubishi is skeptical about its ability to influence the partnership's direction, given its smaller size compared to the other automakers. If Mitsubishi chooses to remain independent, the decision could fuel uncertainty about the Honda-Nissan merger, which some analysts already view with skepticism. Okay. When I read the second part of this statement, it sounded to me like Mitsubishi was saying, you know what? We would rather not get eaten alive by these companies, and, we're going to go ahead and step back. I wonder how much of that was influenced by their own decision and how much of that was influenced by the fact that Honda was already kind of iffy about the Nissan merger, and adding Mitsubishi to the deal made things a little more unpalatable for Honda, the biggest out of these three companies. I don't have any real access to information that would make these claims anywhere near valid. So guys, take everything that I just said with a grain of salt when it comes to my opinion, but it sounded like Mitsubishi wanted to step down or step back from this deal when there is no incentive for them to do so, except for the fact that they want to make sure that the people that are in the company have a say. I don't know how important a say is. Do you have a company? Will you have a company after this? That's why my brain said, you know what, there might be a little something more happening here that they're not saying in this article, or that they're not saying to the public, which could be Honda's like, okay, Nissan's already a stretch, we're not taking Mitsubishi too. I'm just inferring from what it sounded like when I first read this couple of sentences here. So take that with a grain of salt. Believe what you will. Let me know if I am crazy in the comments. Yeah, I was just curious what you guys thought. Alright, it's time for things that I liked. And for the first thing that I liked, there was this really fun Team Telo video series that started up. And they released the first 2 episodes pretty back to back. They basically go over the people, the team of Telo, kind of helping us endear ourselves to that team and what their missions and goals are and whether or not they like pizza or tacos. I enjoyed the fact that we are getting to learn the people, and I believe any team is the glue that will hold any project together. A good team will make it happen, a bad team will not, and Telo so far is showing that they have a pretty good team. This man, first of all, he was drifting in his video. I don't know. I feel like if you can drift in a car, you might know how a car works a little bit. So anyway, I enjoyed these videos. They were very fun to watch, and I am looking forward to the rest of them. This video series is very fun. Please keep it up. The next thing that I like this week, there's a gentleman that has a channel called Trucked Up EVs, and he is a truck guy who happens to also like EVs, and he just went through a bunch of EV battery myths and debunked them. And I enjoyed his tone, I enjoyed his video editing prowess, and I enjoyed his sense of humor, so I figured that you guys might as well. Alright, the last thing that I liked this week was a video by Drzzs Grzzs, I believe is how you pronounce that. I really don't know for certain, honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest here. I don't know how to pronounce their name, but they did a video that talked about some of the stuff at some of the stuff at CES, and one of the things that they talked about during this situation was Aptera. This particular video covers Aptera and what they thought about the vehicle. It was a good video. Like, I enjoyed watching it. It was very well produced. It was very interesting, and the stuff that he had to say was thoughtful, insightful, impactful. It's pretty good. Just wanted to highlight it because I saw it and I thought you guys might like it as well. Alright folks, that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am once more the Ninjaneer. If you would like to go ahead and do the YouTubey things, please do so by clicking on the links all around. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.